Are any of these clocks hooked to like a nuclear clock? So we know which one's right. I got 29, 28, 30.
Portion control, come on.
Others, but that's the only thing I see.
Okay. Good. Well, actually, Mr. Arroyo is not here yet. Mr. Arroyo is on his way. I'm afraid so, yeah. We counted. Caius, Juby. Young will not be here. And Roth and Arroyo.
And Berman online.
Can you be, are you here for this meeting? Until Arroyo gets here, we can start the meeting then.
Berman's online.
Oh, there he is. Okay, well, in that case, good morning. My name is Chris Caius. It's 10:31 on Wednesday, May 14th, 2025, and I'm calling this Kane County Administration Committee to order. This Kane County Committee meeting to order.
Hey, Kevin.
Can we have roll call, please?
Yeah.
Royal. Berman.
Berman's here. Online.
Garcia. Gums.
Comes online.
Young. Are we, where, he's not.
Young online.
But he's not.
Young, now, you said that you were not going to participate in voting, Mr. Young, or is that, am I mistaken?
That is correct. It is a personal
Okay.
trip I'm taking. So,
So thank you.
I'll be here, but so I probably shouldn't be answering the roll call then, right?
Probably not. Just to let you know, of course, you're welcome for comment too, anytime.
Yes,
But,
yes. I'll be commenting later. Okay.
So we'll
Then
note that.
just
Go ahead.
erase the last 30 seconds. Erase the last 30 seconds of YouTube.
Juby.
I'm not here.
Should be here. Caius.
Vice President.
Roth.
Roth here.
You have an in-person quorum with the ex officio.
Okay, great. Thank you. Then I would ask for unanimous consent to allow Mr. Berman and Ms. Gums to participate.
Objection.
Any objections?
None.
May I have a motion second or a request for approval for the minutes, to approve the minutes from April 9th, 2025? From someone on the committee? Arroyo is asking for unanimous consent for the approval of minutes from April 9th, 2025. Is there any objection? Hearing
None.
Okay. Minutes are approved. Public comment? I see Mr. Bob McQuillan out there. Mr. McQuillan, would you like to address
Yes,
us,
thank you.
please? Okay.
Good morning, Bob McQuillan, Batavia. I don't want to steal Rob's thunder, but I wanted to, as a taxpayer and also a member of the Geneva Grotto organization, I wanted to thank both the Forest Preserve and the Kane County Board for authorizing the creek stabilization program that you'll hear about in a couple of minutes. It is amazing, totally amazing what was able to be done down there. And it was a combination of the contractor, Rob's work, his office's work, a ton of volunteers from Jay Womack's group that cleared out trees and brush. The Grotto organization was a little bit involved in it. We focused mostly on the grotto itself, but we did clear a lot of brush out with Rob and worked on redoing the entry into the grotto. And it is just fascinating what work can be done with some tractors and some guys that really know what they're doing construction wise. So again, thank you on behalf of the grotto people and also I believe the taxpayers of Kane County, as this will now be a wonderful place for people just to walk with their families. And we've already seen young kids playing in the creek back there. So I believe Rob may be leading a tour this afternoon, or so I hope you guys can all join and enjoy what the county's work has been done over the last month or so, but planning probably for a year and a half. Again, thank you.
Thank you for your input, a long term. I know you've been here and a leader on that project, letting us know, and we appreciate that. Get us going in the right direction. Thank you. Well, hopefully it won't steal Rob's thunder. Thanks again, Bob. Then the financial reports are on file. And then on to Mr. Fonstock, Mr. Roger Fonstock, our Executive Director's report.
Good morning, this is Roger Fonstock. I don't have a formal report for today. We're going to save the time for Mr. Linky's presentation on the creek. He has a lot of slides for you. They're good pictures. Building management participated in the project as well. We were working with them on the application for the riverboat funding with the riverboat casino grant funding. So we've been helping from kind of behind the scenes with some of the financial things and helping to pay the pay apps and bills, but it's been a great project. And I wanted to give Rob a lot of credit. He did a lot of hard work. He's been down there physically. He's healed now, but physically taking bumps and bruises down there. So the next month we will be bringing in, it will be done with 6 months at the end of May. And we'll be bringing in a mid-year financial report that has some of our mid-year actuals and kind of our projections for where we're at with all of our departments and funds. Kevin Harris and Charles Lasky and I will be putting that information together for the mid-year report. And this week, Friday, they're having one of the first kickoff meetings for the budget, and we'll be working on that with the finance department to get our initial budgets submitted. And we're looking forward to the guidance related to the budget process. And we're looking forward to seeing what we can do. So
Great.
I don't have anything further to report.
Okay.
I believe Mr. Linky's next.
All righty, building management. Well, I see I have to identify Kevin Harris. Is he around here somewhere? Oh, that's him right there. Oh, sorry, Kevin. Do you want to introduce Rob Linky, since this is your part of the program?
Sure. So thanks again for having me. Rob Linky is here. He's done an excellent job at the grotto. We actually got a chance to walk it last week, and he had a few good people who were there with him who were doing a walk. So with that, over to you to do a presentation for us. Thank you.
Yeah. Rob was down there rolling all those boulders by himself, I understand.
I rolled a few. So yeah, it was hard to to not get out there and actually move some of the things around yourself. So that's part of being a civil engineer, I suppose. So yeah,
Proceed, the floor is yours. I apologize.
yeah, no, thank you very much. Members of the administration committee. So I wanted to give you guys an update of this Geneva Creek stabilization project that we had been working on for actually the last, I want to say almost 3 years now. And a lot of planning and a lot of administration and things leading up to construction that started right around the 1st of April. And then in a span of about 30 days, it all came into being. So I'm going to run through some slides here. We'll give a little bit of background. And then what I really wanted to do is take the opportunity. We went back and we actually pulled all of the old photos from before the project and then to contrast them directly to post project so you can really see the difference. I know we had talked about doing a tour down there at the conclusion of the meeting, but I think it'd be really helpful to see what it looked like before to really appreciate the amount of improvements in that have been made down there. So with that, so everyone's familiar with the area that we're talking about. Geneva Creek passes through the south end of the Kane County Government Center campus before transitioning across the Forest Preserve property, Gunnar Anderson, and then into the Fox River. You can see on the map there the location of the creek, and we highlighted the location of the grotto, which is located just off the southeast corner of the Government Center campus on Forest Preserve property. The stream itself is about just a little over 1,300 feet in length across the two parcels. And we did an assessment a couple of years back to look at the conditions. This part of the campus has, really didn't receive a lot of attention due to, how overgrown everything was, the kind of secluded nature of it. It wasn't an active part of the Government Center campus. So there was an old path footpath that traverses through and across the creek, and that was a remnant from the path that was used by the Sacred Heart Minor Seminary folks that would go down through there. They had stations of the cross that would lead up through, culminating at the grotto. And so, but that largely had only been accessed by, a few wanderers that wanted to go down through there. I know when I first started working for the county in 2014, I would make my way down there and kind of walk through the path, and everything was very overgrown. It hadn't been maintained. As you guys know, and your dealings with the Forest Preserve District, but we don't really have natural areas anymore across the county that just maintain themselves in natural areas. That takes a lot of work. That's why the Forest Preserve spends a lot of time on their Forest Preserve properties, having to kind of hold back the invasive species. And this was a site was no different. So both the Forest Preserve property and the King County property through that stream corridor was completely overgrown with honeysuckle and buckthorn and a lot of other nasty things. So, and as a result of that, the stream being overshaded and dealing with all the stormwater runoff that comes from the upstream areas that are all extensively developed. There was a lot of stream bank erosion. This map is just showing you the highlights of this. Is anything shown in red along the stream are severely eroded stream banks. The yellow are bad but manageable, and then green is okay and didn't really need any attention. As you can see, there's very little green on that map. Most of it was red. So we had an assessment that was done. We hired a vendor in 2022 and into 2023, and they prepared an assessment to kind of confirm what we thought was happening as far as the erosion, and that came up with some estimates for what it would take to do the stabilization. We put together a preliminary plan, and really the areas in blue were showing the most critical areas that we felt we needed to address. That plan had laid out costs anywhere from $150,000 to $200,000 to do the very minimal work to upwards of $700,000 to stabilize the entire creek. That was in that's phase 1 report that was done in 2023. And so with that, we moved forward with looking at what we could do with the funding and resources we had to stabilize as much as we could. So the funding that we had established, since part of this project was on Forest Preserve property, and again, with the ongoing and increasing activity at the Geneva Grotto with the volunteers working with the Forest Preserve there, the Forest Preserve had pledged $50,000 towards this project, focusing in on the stabilization around the grotto area. As Roger had mentioned, building management was able to secure $250,000 in Grand Victoria Riverboat grant funding. And then we utilized $200,000 from the King County's Wetland Fee in Lieu Fund. So for those of you guys that aren't familiar, the King County collects money when there are wetland impacts throughout the county. We collect a fee in lieu when the developer doesn't have the ability to buy wetland credits at a mitigation bank. So currently there aren't any mitigation banks that have credits available. So we've been bringing money in. And the idea then is that that money that the county collects for this fee in lieu fund, we then use to build new wetlands in other areas on public property. So we have an ongoing project right now with the Forest Reserve to build some wetlands, but we also have the ability to utilize that money to do stream restoration. And so this was a really good example or an opportunity to do some stream corridor restoration right here on the county campus. So we were able to utilize that funding as well. So we decided to move forward, as you guys may recall, about actually 2 years ago at this point, with a design build approach to this project. And that kind of gives us some flexibility to maximize the amount of funds that can go towards the construction elements of the project, as opposed to, more the administrative and design costs in that. That lends itself well to a stream restoration type project because, as you guys can imagine, streams change over time. And so when you start doing the design work, depending on the flow conditions, floods and that, things can actually shift around by the time you actually get your permits in place and you go to construction. So this created a really good opportunity to utilize that kind of model in order to build the project. And it worked very well. You can see that we did project bidding in the late fall of 2023. We had 2 respondents to that request for the proposals. NCAP was awarded that, and the contracts were signed in January of 2024. And then it took from February 2024 to November of 2024, not so much on the design, but more on the permitting. And that's because of the federal and state permits that are needed. There was an archaeological survey that was requested by the Army Corps. So that kind of delayed the project, and we missed our window last fall. Originally, we were going to do this work in the fall during that drought conditions that we had, and that would have been ideal, but we missed that. The contractor was very responsive and very open to getting in as soon as the opportunities present itself to do the work. So you can see then that site clearing, the preparations actually started in February on one of the coldest days of the year. They were out there actually clearing the brush or the larger trees and that they would need for construction access. And then we had the construction was in April, and now we're kind of in this monitoring and maintenance mode. I'd be remiss, though, if I didn't point out that the project actually started over a year ago in terms of on-the-ground work, and that, as Bob McQuillan had mentioned, with the King County Forest Reserve District, you may recall we signed an intergovernmental agreement with them to actually leverage their volunteer natural area program. So Rob Cleve, their volunteer coordinator, was working with Jay Womack, who is the Fabian Forest Reserve site steward. They actually moved their whole operation over to the Government Center campus in Gunnar Anderson. And we probably had at least a dozen work days where we had anywhere from 10 to, upwards of 30 people at any one time out here clearing out all of the invasive honeysuckle and that. And that included not just on the Gunnar Anderson property and along the entire stream corridor. We actually did the area up at the top of the hill here that we'll see today when we go out the area behind the dumpsters. All of the invasives have been cleared out and removed from that area. And none of that would have been possible without the volunteers. So they did the lion's share of the work. And then the contractor was able to come in and pick up those brush piles and move them out and take care of them. So just a picture of the site clearing that was done by NCAP, the contractor, and again, just burning the brush piles and that were cleared out in order to get access into the creek. And just a couple of photos I want to show you on the actual construction process. It is kind of a, they get right down in the creek. The majority of the work was rock toe bank stabilization. So you're going to see a lot of stone work that's put down in the bottom of the creek. And that's where we have the most erosion, the most erosive forces happen down at that lower 1 to 2 foot area. So you'll see a lot of stone. Yes.
So is the green grass private property, the house?
Yeah, so you can see the fence in the background. That fence is actually Kane County fence at the edge of the property, and we elected to leave the fence in place in large part because the adjacent private landowner has got an extensive collection of cut lumber along there that's been amassed over the last several decades. And so the easiest thing was to just leave that alone and stabilize in place and work inside of the fence line. So this is at the lower end down near the Fox River, which would be just off to the right, or excuse me, to the left of the photo. At the upstream end, just to give you an idea, this is where the Geneva Creek comes in through a 84-inch or 7-foot diameter culvert under Route 31. You can see the stabilization that we were doing there, starting with that toe protection. And then, so it was an interesting project in that all of the work was accessed from the circle down at the bottom on the Forest Serve. And then the contractor actually drove all the way up the stream corridor to Route 31. So it made things easier in terms of not having to deal with IDOT and restoration work on Route 31 and those kinds of things. But it did make for some interesting, they looked like ants raiding a picnic basket. There was a constant line of skid steers going back and forth all the way through there. We learned real quick that if you're going to walk out there while they were working, you had to have your safety vest on because there was a lot of construction equipment moving around. This is in the middle part of the site, and actually this is just wanted to show you and just give a little shout out to one of the subs that was working with NCAP, Schultz Excavating. He was kind of the lead guy on the excavator, and for driving a 60,000-pound machine, he was very, very careful in the skill that he was able to use to negotiate around the larger trees, the oaks and the silver maples that we were preserving. And then you see the big orange flagging in the middle. That's actually the protection that we put around the memorial stone for the Walter Stevens Memorial Fern Garden that was constructed back in 1981 in this area. Walter Stevens was, as I understand, was the original proprietor for the Natural Garden. And so they had put together a garden there. So we wanted to preserve that and then make sure that that stayed in place. Yes.
Roth here. Is there any plan to restore that garden?
So that's on my last slide. There's
Okay,
a
never
question mark.
mind.
There's been some discussion. Yeah, there's been some discussion about that. So, yes, and actually we had now, so the Natural Garden, I guess since you asked the question, since the Natural Garden had been acquired by Midwest Ground Covers, we actually had representatives from Midwest Ground Covers who I guess knew Mr. Stevens, and so they had been down there to take a look at it, and there's some interest there, and perhaps that they would donate the plants there to reestablish that garden. So, and then this is just showing.
I'm going to request that we hold questions till the end, so that because he's usually very thorough.
Yes. So this is just to show the clearing. So this is up at the top of the hill. And the contractor NCAP was able to come in and they were able to cut up all the stumps from that were left over from the volunteer clearing effort and then use their mechanized equipment there to grab these huge brush piles. We probably had, the volunteers probably created 20 brush piles about the size of a minivan. And those all had to be hauled out of there. And then, we burned those down at the bottom in an open area in that. So that was a really important piece of the work that you'll see as we go through there to kind of get ahead of holding back some of the invasives that had really overgrown that southern part of the campus. So now I'm just going to kind of go through these before and after photos here. So this is at the upstream end. You can see the culvert under Route 31. Again, that's a 7-foot diameter pipe. So if you look to the left of that, you can see that, hopefully you can make that out in the picture. That's about a 7-foot high eroded bank. It's like a vertical cliff. And then this is what it looks like afterwards. So this has all been stabilized. They installed a rock riffle grade control there. That's in the foreground there. One of the interesting things too, and that we really appealed to us with this contractor's proposal when they submitted this as part of that design build package was rather than just using crushed stone riprap, which is a very common practice that we use. And as engineers, we like that for bank stabilization because the rock is jagged, it's angular, and it locks together. And that's really important for a good foundation. But one of the things that they actually proposed was to basically top off the all of their grade control with glacial boulders so that it would kind of keep in with the nature of the existing boulders and that have been put in there, almost 100 years ago. So you'll kind of see that when we go through the tour, but that was kind of a nice feature. And so it adds to the characters, those boulders, weather and that, it's really going to blend in very nice. So this is standing on the wooden footbridge that's right here at just off south of the yellow house. And so if you're standing on the footbridge, this is what it looked like before. You can see in the right there, this is one of the stations of the cross that had eroded in. So this used to be up here on the bank and had fallen into the creek as the creek had widened. So that's what it looked like before. And then this is what it looks like now. Things are actually more green now than they are when these pictures were taken a week or so ago. But again, just to give you an idea of how overgrown everything was, you can see all of this. This is all honeysuckle. And of course, this is taken in the fall. So it just looks kind of this light color. But in the summertime, this is all greened out and completely shaded out the entire stream. So, and again, which contributed to the erosion. So all that's been cleared out. This is all now herbaceous native plants that have been seeded in here. So this will all grow back here over the next couple of months. And this is looking back. This is looking towards Route 31. There's that wooden footbridge right there. Here's the old footpath. And again, all the honeysuckle, you can't see the stream. And then this is what it looks like now. So there's the bridge in the foreground. And again, everything's been cleared out. This is that where we saw that big excavator was sitting right here. There's that memorial garden stone. And again, you can see all of the timber in that had been cut up when a tree would fall into the creek or across the creek. We had some large oaks on the north slope that had fallen in. And so we'd work with building management and they'd have a landscaping contractor come out and cut up the material, but all the stuff would basically be left there, due to costs and things like that. So you can see here then all of that with the efforts between the volunteers and then the contractor. This is what that looks like now. So all that material has been moved out and cleared. This is, here's one of those stations of the cross. So just remember that piece for a point of reference. The stream, again, so overgrown, you can't even see it here, but it's right there. And then this is the same photo looking back. And this is looking at one of the crossings, looking back upstream. There's a very, the worst erosion on the entire property was right here on this hill slope. And then we can see that now, and there's all that stabilization that occurred there. Contractor did a really good job of saving as many of the trees as we could along the way. Obviously, the root masses do a good job of holding the banks in place. There's that second crossing there. You can see people had put like a door over here. This used to be like a concrete structure and it had long since washed out and people were putting tree limbs across it, anything they could to walk across there. And this is what this looks like now. So we don't have a crossing here. There's grade control across here. So there's a big rock riffle. This is one of the things that, we had talked about previously about if the county would, be interested in maybe reestablishing this with a footbridge across there. Something we can take a look at and talk about. Here's another example. So there's that same location there and you can see the undercutting on the trees and the banks there. And then this is the stabilization afterwards. And this again was the worst location. This is a 15-foot survey rod when I was out collecting data, just to give you an idea of the perspective. And then there's the stabilization there. And again, these are actually put in to hold the soil in place as stuff comes down through the top. So this is kind of a nice practice there. And we're really happy with how that turned out. And this is looking upstream in the mid portion and just showing an after there with all of the stone toe stabilization. And then the next several should be here at the grotto. So this is what the conditions at the grotto look like before. You can see the trail used to come up and around. This was the access to the grotto. And all of that was lost over the last 3 years or so. This is about a 6 to 7 foot high vertical drop off here at the grotto. So that's what we started out dealing with. And this is what it looks like now. So that path has been restored around here. So we've been able to reestablish that, stabilize the creek, which was kind of a large canyon up until we had done this work. Here's what it looked like if you were on the edge of the grotto steps looking off the stairs. So basically, if you took a step off here, it was a 6 to 7 foot straight down drop into the Stony Creek below. This large green ash, this fell in about 2 years ago, and it actually took even more of this bank and part of the steps with it. And then this is what it looks like now from that same spot. So again, highlighting all the work that the grotto volunteers have done to restore the steps and rebuild those, and then tying into the stabilization work that we did and putting in some gravel there for the path. So now everybody accesses this way and doesn't have to utilize the old stairs that were put in there. So this is looking, the grotto is just off to the right. And again, you can see how wide the stream channel had widened. This used to be 10 feet wide 20 years ago, and now it's like upwards of 30 feet wide. And then after the stabilization, we were able to put the creek back into a more stable geometry. And then I think this is the last before and after picture. This is looking down, Fox River is down here. So this is private property over on the right. And then this is the King County Forest Reserve on the left. And then here's the stabilization afterwards. So again, many hands make light work. And while I'm happy to have people point out the work that I did, there was a ton of work that was done by a ton of individuals, and none of this would have been possible without everybody working together. So I want to give a special shout out to Roger and his group at Building Management. It's really what was allowed us to take this project, as we pointed out in the funding aspect. Originally, we thought we had about $250,000 to work with, and that was going to limit the amount of stabilization work that we could do. Building Management was able to secure that riverboat funding grant, and that's what allowed us to do the entire project. So that was a key aspect. Certainly the cooperation with the Forest Reserve, both their financial contribution as well as working with their volunteer program was really key. Our GIS department, so I wasn't able to include it here, but one of the things that we will do at some point is I was able to have Kurt's group was able to fly their drone through the project site before the work started. So we have it when it looked really bad. They were able to fly it through while construction was underway, and then they just flew it again. So we'll be able to do some before and after, and we'll try to put out a video on that. So it'll be kind of neat. You know how the RGS department works. Everything is geo-referenced, so the videos will overlap exactly in the same location. So we're looking forward to that. And then certainly, again, the volunteers. So the folks associated with the grotto. So Bob McQuillan, Patrick and Ann Murdoch, Chris Elementi. I spent many hours down in and around the grotto working down there, and they were always willing to roll up their sleeves and lend a hand with any of the clearing and moving things around. So it's really kind of added to the amount of success, or I guess the level of success we've had there. And even just a special mention, a couple of the neighbors actually came out. One of them, the one that has the giant metal bull statue that you'll see on the far side, he was down here all the time helping us as well. So it was really neat to see the collaboration between, volunteers in the general area as well as the actual landowners that were willing to come in. They recognizing that, what a amenity this part of the county campus was. And then future work. So right now the contractor has as part of that contract, they have an ongoing monitoring and maintenance. So you'll see when we go out there, you're going to see a lot of areas where there's this ground cover that's all brown and decaying and looking really bad. That was some really highly invasive species that we had that they actually went out and sprayed. So they're doing not just the stream corridor where the areas that they disturbed during the work, the project itself, but they're actually doing the entire stream corridor. It makes sense to have them do both of those. So you're going to see that had gone on, and that'll be something that'll be going on for the next 3 years. There's ongoing maintenance of the wooded upland area up here behind where the dumpsters are and across from where the old Corners building was. And so that's some ongoing work that we're doing here on the county side of the property. We're working with Building Management to remove some of the historic spoil piles that have been placed back there over the years. So those things will be coming out. We've been talking with Building Management about building a dumpster enclosure to kind of compartmentalize, the dumpsters themselves and the activities associated with that. now that that's opened up. And then a couple of things, I put question marks on there. There's some ongoing discussions about restoring that memorial fern garden that, was an effort that was done back in the 1980s with the support of the King County. So that's something that we're having discussions about. And then future work would also include discussions about constructing or reconstructing the 2-foot bridges there. There's an existing one down there now, a wooden one that was built many, many years ago, my understanding, by members from building management a long time ago. And then the other one itself is actually collapsed, and we had to remove the remnants of that concrete or whatever. So we'll see that on the tour as well. And with that, I'll take any questions, and I'm happy to also take questions down on the tour as well if people see
So-
things down there.
Look, if it's not too driving a question, let's postpone it until we do our walk and might be able to get the perspective even right from being right there. And we'll make sure we get our business out of the way and get Rob a chance to get up to a dam removal project, I guess he's going to be talking about. So,
I would like to make one comment, Mr. Chairman.
sure, go right ahead.
I just have to thank Mr. Linky again, because I think both of us remember the day about 3 years ago when one of my esteemed colleagues said, "That's just a drainage ditch." And we had to correct my colleague that this is not a drainage, this is a beautiful creek that needs some restoration.
I think I was there. Concrete was mentioned. Concrete was mentioned on that for a drainage channel,
It's
yeah.
just a drainage ditch.
Everybody has the opportunity to learn and grow. So
Liz?
I just wanted to thank everybody involved because it's an amazing project. But a shout out to Mr. McQuillan. I am on his Facebook page, and he has been so good at putting out all the updates and all the progress that's along the way. So it's just so cool to watch week after week of all the improvements that have gone on, and it's a beautiful site. And thank you so much. I know you put your heart and soul into it, so thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Allen?
Alan here. How long is Geneva Creek? Where does it start?
well, the creek itself actually, in terms of what you would consider a creek, actually doesn't or only begins up in the Geneva Golf Course. So only about 2 miles from the river up to the start of the creek. But that's because the rest of the creek has all been buried over and converted into storm sewer. So if you think about this, when it rains up at the intersection of Randall and Route 38 where the Jewel is, the water that goes into those storm sewers there, that's actually the start of where the runoff is collected and then ultimately discharged into Geneva Creek.
Yeah. A part of the reason I ask is that when it's high, when there's a lot of water, a lot of radiation happening, I mean, it was really pretty massive down there. It was, washing into the river. Nasty.
Right, right. And that's one of the things you'll see there is that the creek right now is very, very dry because it's largely driven by stormwater. There's not as much of a base flow component. But when it does rain, the creek comes up very high, very quickly. So which is one of the reasons why we had to use a lot of stone toe protection along there. So probably a little more than what we would if we were working in a stream that was, like on a forester property further out, west in the county.
This is a city stream.
Yeah, urban stream for sure.
Mr. Wright?
Thank you, Mr. Kites. 2 questions. One can wait for the tour. The other one, the Stations of the Cross, was there any restoration to those?
So we flagged them all to make sure that the contractor didn't touch them, move them, run them over. You saw the one that was in the creek. We actually had the contractor pick that one up, and that one's actually been reset. So that's in a location close to where it was originally. The place where it originally is now part of the creek. But the physical features themselves are still there. So that's up to other people to decide, what to do with those and how to treat those.
Thank you.
Well, we might see it happen. I know just as we were starting this project, we had a really big, heavy rainstorm that turned that thing into a massive river, it seemed like. And I thought, how will they ever save this thing? But as much as it changes, it handled a lot of water from upstream. Okay. Any other questions for right now. Okay, well, thank you, Rob, and thanks for all your hard work on this, putting it together. Then, item B is approving a facility use for the Kane County Circuit Clerk parking lot for a monthly artisan market. Is Kevin gonna handle that one or is
I'll
that?
handle it.
Okay.
Mr. Chairman. This is Roger Fonstock with IT and Buildings. We had a request for the use of the parking lot at the Kane County Branch Court. That's 540 South Randall in St. Charles. It's across from the Kane County Farm Bureau and across from the fairgrounds. So the Branch Court, not the courthouse or Third Street, but the parking lot on Randall Road. It is the contact information was for an individual, which is in your packet, Kim Sieber. And the forms were approved by the Office of the Chief Judge. And this is for a period of time from June through October, first Saturday of the month, once per month. They're going to be there pretty much from 6:30 in the morning till 2:30 in the afternoon. And they had limited information about, the number of participants. So it says unknown. We had a few questions or concerns that we wanted to bring forward before you provide consent. One was whether or not the county, in the forms, it suggests that they have liability. And in talking with the state's attorney's office, they had recommended that we require or ask them to obtain additionally insured on a liability insurance certificate. The other question was whether or not there are no restrooms available on that property on a Saturday, and for the length of the event, whether or not we wanted to recommend or require portable restroom. And then the other thing was about having a clear understanding about waste generated for an event that's going to be roughly 8 hours in length, making sure that they have proper like trash collection containers. It's a parking lot. We don't have those out there in the parking lot. The state's attorney also asked that we inform them that they need to comply with all the City of St. Charles ordinances related to gatherings or whatever activities that they have. And then the other question was whether or not, we typically do an event approval for an event for a day or a period of days. This will be something that is every month recurring. And I'll be honest, we just don't have the ability to understand what might be happening in the parking lot in October. And so you would be essentially reserving the parking lot for them for 5 Saturdays over the next 5 months. So those are the questions that we had, but it's before you for your consensus. This isn't something that normally goes to the full board. So we just need your approval for this. And then I think we'd want your direction on whether or not we should require the requester to provide any of these things. For some of the other organizations, we do get certificates of insurance with additionally insured, and they handle garbage collection. They handle bathrooms like the Swedish Days, car shows, if they're going to go for extended periods of time. And then again, usually we approve it for a day, a weekend, a week. It's not usually month in and month out for a period of time. And then there's also, I'm trying to remember, they were saying that there's no food served at this time. And we were just wanting to be clear that there's no food served unless you obviously have to have the appropriate licenses and requirements from the city. We don't do that in the city limits. So it's kind of mixed questions. They're doing it in the city, but it's a county piece of property. So we just want to make sure they don't think we're authorizing something that the city has purview over.
Okay, and I had Ms. Bates had her hand up here first.
Do we know what Miss Ryan's schedule would be this summer for shredding events or recycling?
I don't have any requests
those
in
are
front of
the-
us for the recycling events. That was another question, was whether or not we could kind of cordon them off to a certain piece of the property instead of just generically
The
the
entire
parking
thing.
lot. Yeah, it's like, could give them a map and say, you have this corner to work with and leave the rest of the lot. Because I believe when you do recycling,
We take up the whole
you take up
parking
the whole lot. Yeah.
The whole.
And
the
it's
whole
on a
thing.
weekend.
Saturday.
It's on Saturday mornings.
I think it's this
Okay.
Saturday, isn't it?
Roth here. I have the calendar. They don't have the first Saturday. It's May 17th, July 19th, and September 27th.
The recycling?
Hmm?
The recycling event?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. I don't have it in front of me.
I'll sell you a postcard. I got extra ones.
Okay, and Ms. Juby?
So I have a couple. Do we know what exactly is happening in the artisan market? Like, is it soaps? Is it like breads? Is it like pet supplies, like her email address would indicate?
We do not get that information from them. They gave us a description for the form. And that's kind of what brought up the concerns was we just, it's not a known, like for a sponsoring organization, it says NA. So it's
Right.
an individual and there's no like parent organization that tells you what they do.
Okay,
That's that was our other kind of,
so I had a couple concerns that the
Okay.
state's attorney also addressed. I was concerned about internal security. We see that a lot with a lot of the organizations that want to use our property. The trash was another one. I was like, we don't have trash things there. I appreciate the suggestion about porta potties and about insurance, but I'm gonna have to be a no on this. There's not enough information available to approve it. If they can come up with, well, they won't make our next admin meeting if they want to start on June 7th. We're already in May. So I can't vote yes on this.
Mr. Gripe?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Just for the committee's information, this is the same date as the weekend of the Kane County Flea Market, which is right across the street. So not necessarily good or bad, but that's a lot more traffic. People might want to walk across Randall Road, which is probably not terribly safe, but anyway, FYI.
Not terribly safe. That's a underestimation. Yeah. Transportation. Well, I guess we can vote it down, or we can ask maybe that they come back with more information on it, but at that point, we won't, it won't make, our committee until after their first date anyway. So this is actually kind of late date to be asking for a lot of,
I think, yeah, the first
something that
week.
hasn't happened before.
Yeah, I spoke with Kim Sieber, I believe it was Kim. It was late last week and we got the forms, so we just made the agenda packet the day of, so
Yeah.
we haven't had this for a long time. It's not been something sitting, and we didn't really, before the agenda was finalized, we didn't have time to ask a lot of these questions. And the other thing too is maybe reviewing either the ordinance or the forms to see, if we want to change something where we require consideration or a plan for these things going forward. The other thing was, it's a brand new parking lot with new striping. We just did it last year. And we would maybe want to, I don't know if it's even possible, but some consideration for a deposit or something like that. If people leave the place a mess and we have to go out and use our own people, be fully refundable as long as we get the property back in good order. But it would be something not necessarily to cover all the expenses if somebody damaged something, but to encourage them to be careful. Cleaning up garbage, things like that.
So then again, just a reminder that this wouldn't go to a vetting. We'd either approve it or not approve it here.
Today,
'Cause
yes.
It would be, it won't go to exec. There's no, typically, and that might be actually whether we ask for extra information for this time or for this particular project, or whether we develop a form that requests more information, that would be a long-term
Yes.
thing. But, so I'm going to ask for maybe a consensus of yes or no on this. Juby's a no.
I'm a no, Chris Gums.
Gums, no. Berman? I tend to be a no. Arroyo?
I'm a maybe. I'm not against the project at all, but push it back a month and get more information for future. And again, this sounds like it'll be a yearly thing. Just get them prepped for the next time. But
Yeah,
for
monthly,
now, I'm a no.
yearly.
No at this time with the recommendation to provide us.
Okay.
It doesn't sound very professional, just show and say, we're going to use your parking lot for we don't know what, so.
Mr. Chair Gums.
Comes?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I agree with Mr. Royal. I don't not like the project. I think I need more information and I read the packet, but I did not realize that this was something that we didn't have what Roger said. What's the word? Not smoothies, Mr. Royal. Like a deposit, because down, in other municipalities and other places that do this, there's often a deposit in place. I'm not able to find that data, so I have to dig into that, and I apologize because I didn't even think about that.
Sure.
Garbage and whatnot can be left
this-
behind, but if there's a deposit in place, often that's
This would
handled.
also be unusual for us in that it's a repeating, like you're saying, 5 months worth as opposed to 1 month.
Yeah.
One single event.
Are they paying us to do this?
No.
I
usually
pay,
the-
I pay the park district over $1,000 a day for 1 day to do the Green Fest.
Well, that's a
maybe a
long
revenue
range policy,
source?
maybe. I wouldn't want to spend too much time on this other than to get a vote to say no and then move on and maybe look for
One-
some long range stuff.
This is a resolution, so should we make a motion?
I'll entertain a motion.
And I'll make a motion,
Well, it's not listed as a
Can't.
resolution, but
But
we can
I'm
take-
sorry, it's not I'm already one ahead. I'm sorry.
Yeah. No,
My
I
mistake,
didn't think so
sorry.
either. That's why the
I
consensus.
was
is
already
appropriate.
moving on.
If we want official, then Mr. Fonstock.
Just for clarification too, I was reading the form says that should be submitted 4 weeks before the planned activity, and I think that's for all of these questions. So your own form that was used by the chief judge's office, it does provide for 4 weeks of advance notice, so we can kind of answer these questions. I think that would be fair.
So they haven't met
Next month.
they hadn't met that requirement. So 4 weeks would be
Yeah, we
next
got
month.
this last week, so.
Okay, so back to consensus then, unless you would like to have us do a vote on it, official vote?
I think we should do an official vote on it because to the best of my knowledge, this will be the first time we've turned someone down.
Okay, well, let's do it that way. I don't know that we can vote on it if it's not a resolution, but it is on the agenda. I will entertain a motion to postpone this or deny this application and request more information on the
Applicant.
on the application and what they actually are going to do in that. So does
So
that sound?
it's approving the facility use of the Kane County Circuit Clerk parking lot for a monthly artisan market. So the motion should be to approve the facility use of the Kane County Circuit Clerk unless we want to muddy it and add, about postponing it. I think we should just stick with what the language is here.
I misspoke, postpone. Yeah, just what's there.
I just think it's either a yes or no,
yes or-
approving the
okay.
facility use.
So it's been moved that we do, that we.
I move it
that we-
as,
That we not do this, allow this permit.
Yeah, Arroyo second this.
okay, now we can take a voice vote.
Okay, we got a second from Arroyo. Roll call, please.
Arroyo,
No.
Berman,
Yes.
Gums,
Gums, no.
Juby,
Juby, no?
Roth,
Caius, no.
fails with 1 yes.
So we'll leave them to reapply or something with more information. Then on to item C, may I have a motion and a second to present and potentially approve a resolution authorizing the purchase of maintenance, repair, operating supplies, industrial supplies related to products and services through Omnia's Home Depot Pro contract for the Building Management Department, contract number 16154, that is TMP 25-569, which is on page 50 and is for $50,000, moved by
Arroyo moves.
Arroyo, second by Berman.
I think that's on page 88.
It's on page,
88.
oops,
That's before, your
Must have
number
done
was
this late
before
at
Rob
night.
added his presentation.
yeah. Oh, could be. Okay, Mr. Fonstock, were you? gonna-
Actually,
I think
I'll speak
Mr.
to this
Harris
one.
is going to
Oh,
take this
Kevin.
today. Yep,
Yep.
we're
Sorry.
going.
So Kevin Harris, building management. So this is for, particularly for a purchase cooperative with Home Depot. We like the idea of having a few additional vendors, so we can drive competitive pricing. And so we have Home Depot on this, cooperative agreement right now. We are finding that Home Depot has some, better pricing, particularly for water softeners, which we're using more and more of. And so that's why one of the reasons why we want to do this. So competitive pricing is going to help drive this. We also use Grainger and Amazon and as well as some other vendors. And Home Depot want to add to this so we can, again, just drive better pricing as well as availability of things like water softeners.
Okay, thank you. Any questions? Ms. Juby?
Kevin, sorry, you weren't part of the early meeting conversation. I have two issues with this. I don't have a problem with Home Depot. I have a problem with the actual contract. It's not a clean copy. There's a lot of lineouts in it. I would prefer us to have one that's more specific to our needs. And also it was bid in 2017. So 8 years ago, I'm not sure it is still the cheapest and best. So I will not be supporting it based on the actual contract, not necessarily the purchasing power from Home Depot.
Okay. Any other questions or comments? Roll call, please.
Oh, yes.
Berman,
Oh, yes.
Gums,
Gums, no.
Juby,
No.
Roth,
Roth, no.
Caius.
Yes, that's a tie,
The
though.
tie.
The tie, so it doesn't pass.
Mr. Chair, may I make a comment?
Sure.
If we were to come through with a clean copy, I would like to see that, but also I'm very concerned with the 2017 bid.
Noted by staff.
Yep.
Okay. Item D, may I have a motion and a second to present and potentially approve a resolution authorizing a contract renewal for Kane County asbestos lead and mold consultant services with Midwest Environmental Consulting Services. That is TMP -25-571, and RFP number 22-011, up to 200,000 a year.
Juby moves.
Gums,
Moved by
second.
Juby, second by Gums, and I won't even guess on the page number this time since I was wrong the first time. Any questions?
128.
I would have had it right, 128, page 128. Okay, any questions, comments about this? Hearing none, roll call, please.
Arroyo,
Oh, yes.
Berman,
Berman, yes.
Gums,
Gums, yes.
Juby,
Aye.
Roth,
Roth, yes.
Caius.
Guys, yes. Motion passes. Okay, then this would be item E. May I have a motion second to present, potentially approve a resolution authorizing the purchase of paint and related supplies through Omnia's Sherwin-Williams contract for the Building Management Department. That's TMP -25-573 for, and contract number 02-147 for up to 40,000 per year on page 131.
Juby moves.
Moved by Juby, second by
Royal.
Arroyo. Mr. Harris.
Yes.
We'll have Mr. Harris first do his explanation of the,
So this is for the purchase of paint that we use for our infrastructure, so our buildings and also the aging infrastructure that you don't necessarily always see, things like piping and also in the JJC and AJC. For those who may not be aware, paint provides a barrier for moisture, UV ray, corrosion, other kind of deteriorating aspects of our environment. So it's really some maintenance program that we're in. And so as we try to find the right kinds of paint, for example, you can use paint in certain areas to prevent some of these corrosive activities. We want to use Sherwin-Williams. They have a high quality paint at a good price. And so that's what you see. That's why you see this on here right now.
okay, any questions for Kevin? Did you have your hand up? Mr.
Yes,
Bates? Madam Bates?
this actually applies to the Home Depot resolution as well. I recall a few months ago, there was a discussion, Bates here, a discussion about the co-ops not living up to the letter of the RFP process. Is that still a question?
Mr.
I mean, we've
Fonsack.
been following what was approved by the county board purchasing department under finance. They authorized very specific cooperatives like Omnia, Sourcewell. There's the state of Illinois contracts. Those are entered into under a master purchasing agreement with the cooperative. So Omnia and Sourcewell have that, and the county participates in that master agreement. The lead agency or a lead government entity will advertise and bid for the particular services, commodities, items. And then all of the participating agencies in the master agreement can use that for the purchasing as a competitive procurement process. So I believe that's perfectly clear with the state's attorney's office in that regard. There are some competitive, let's say, cooperatives. They're not government-led agency cooperatives that are not allowed under Illinois law. But the ones that are led by government agencies that the county already has a master agreement with, those like Omnia, like Sourcewell, those are the ones that the state's attorneys reviewed and
Great,
has
thanks.
allowed.
Okay. Any other questions? Roll call, please.
Arroyo,
Yes.
Berman,
Berman, yes.
Gums, yes.
Juby,
Should aye.
Roth,
Roth, yes.
Caius.
Caius, yes. Motion passes. Item F, may I have a motion and a second to present and potentially approve a resolution authorizing a contract extension for Kane County wall finishing and painting services with 1, Midwest Decorating Incorporated, and 2, Tiles in Style LLC DBA Taza Construction for the Building Management Department, bid number 22038. That's TMP 25-574. It's an extension of a contract for $200,000, up to $200,000 per year. I believe that's on page 218. Moved by
Should
Juby, second by
Yeah.
Arroyo.
So very similar. We also want to have the ability to use third-party vendors because we don't always have the staff to do all the work that we need to do. And so we leverage our third-party vendors, these two being one that we've been using long before I came here. They provide good pricing and they're high quality. And so we want to extend that contract with them.
Okay, any questions for Mr. Harris? And roll call, please.
Arroyo,
Yes.
Berman,
Berman, yes.
Gums,
Yes.
Juby,
Should aye.
Roth,
Roth, yes.
Caius.
Caius, yes. Motion passes. Item G, they have a motion and second to present and potentially approve resolution authorizing a contract renewal for Kane County janitorial supplies with Warehouse Direct, bid number 22-018. That's TMP 25-587, an extension of up to $140,000 per year on that's, I believe, on page 221. Moved by
Gums will
Should
move.
God.
Moved by Juby, second by Gums. That's like pulling teeth here, Gums. Okay. Any questions? Oh, go ahead, Kevin.
No, I think this one's pretty clear. We're just wanting to renew the contract so we can continue to buy janitorial supplies at again, a good
Fairly
price.
straightforward.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. Any questions for Kevin?
It's a 1 year.
Roll call, please.
Arroyo,
Oh, yes.
Berman,
Berman, yes.
Gums,
Yes.
Juby,
Should aye.
Roth,
Roth, yes.
Caius.
Caius, yes. Motion passes. Item H, may I have a motion and second to present and potentially approve a resolution authorizing a contract for Kane County Building Management Department Electrician Services program with Blade Electric and Technologies LLC, Fitzgerald Electric Contracting Incorporated, REM Electric Shop Incorporated, and Omega Electric DBA Temperature Service Company, bid number 25-017-TK, which is TMP 25-590 for up to $125,000 per year. Moved by
Ramos.
Arroyo, second by
Gums.
Gums. That's on page 223, I believe.
Yes, it is.
Oh, Mr. Fonstock?
Just to be clear, the resolution was not to exceed 250,000.
Yeah, 250,000 a
Yes.
year. Up to less than.
Oh, it doesn't say
Question-
that though.
Was any other explanation on that? Do you think it's pretty straightforward? Then Mr. Mike, you had a question or comment?
I have a comment.
Oh,
Is this
Well,
Ream
let-
Electric from St. Charles?
no, this is electrical electricians, essentially electrical service contractors. So we bid out and look for people that can do electrical work in our buildings for commercial electrical work.
Okay,
Um,
so this is not Ream Electric from St. Charles. This is a different company.
I'm sorry, what,
It is.
what'd you say? I didn't quite hear you.
The third company here, Ream Electric,
yeah, they're in St. Charles.
okay, they have recently vacated their shop. I think they may be out of business. If you had recent contact with them,
We,
there may be somebody operating that business from another location. I don't know.
we've had very recent work with Ream, recent in the last week and a half. So
Okay, well, then
they're
they're operating
still
from another
operating.
location.
could be, yes.
Yeah,
Verify that.
their shop in downtown St. Charles predates me.
Okay.
This
Yeah.
would have been from their bid submittal. So if they changed their
Yes.
address for doing business, we can
Yeah,
find out. But
I just, it's an old business that
Yeah.
it's
Okay, and it-
suddenly disappeared, so they're elsewhere. That's fine.
Ms. Juby?
I just wanted to comment because I'm usually the one who says, why aren't we doing it in Kane County? That all of these are Kane County, so I appreciate that. Thank you.
Other questions or comments? Roll call, please.
Arroyo,
Yes.
Berman,
Berman, yes.
Gums,
Gums, yes.
Juby,
Juby, I.
Roth,
Roth, yes.
Bias.
Yes, yes. Motion passes on to section 9, IT. May I have a motion in a second to present and potentially approve a resolution authorizing wireless and data service contract with AT&T Mobility National Accounts LLC for JPMC Wireless / Cellular Services Contract Number CMS 793372S. That is TMP 25-588 on page 361. And that is
Gums will move.
up to 420K per year. And that is moved by
Gums will move.
Gums, second by
Royal.
Arroyo. And Mr. Lasky?
Yes, this is Charles Lasky with the IT department. This resolution authorizes us to use a state contract that's in place for AT&T for their cellular services. This is a budget expense as we're looking at ways to improve service and reduce costs in some of our current agreements. We're currently looking at possibility of using AT&T versus Verizon, so we're comparing services rates. So having this in place will allow us to get some competitive pricing from both and compare those to look for ways we might be able to save some additional money. So this is a budget expense and we would recommend approval.
Okay, so any questions for Charles? Hearing none, roll call, please.
Arroyo,
Yes.
Berman,
Berman, yes.
Gums,
Gums, yes.
Juby,
Juby, I.
Roth,
Roth, yes.
Bias, yes. Motion passes. Item B, may I have a motion and a second to present and potentially approve a resolution authorizing execution of a master intergovernmental cooperative purchasing agreement and other documents necessary to participate in a purchasing cooperative with AT&T and authorizing the purchase of telecommunications service under said agreement by Kane County Contract ID 5119671, that is TMP 25-8589 on page 391 for an additional $80,000 for, and bring a total to $380,000. And you could probably explain that better. That motion moved by
Royal moves.
Arroyo, second by
Juby.
Juby.
Yes, this is Charles Lasky. So this is the final set of contracts that are part of our AT&T services that are used on the desktop or on the, desk phone side of things, our circuits that come in for our fax lines, our emergency lines that are used in elevators for burglar alarms. So this authorizes the last 3 contracts. You approved the first 2 back in February through admin and county board. So we would recommend approval for these. These are the last things we need to finalize that. These are all budget expenses and they're items that are used throughout the county by all offices and departments.
Okay, any questions for Charles? Hearing none, roll call, please.
Arroyo,
Arroyo, yes.
Berman,
Berman, yes.
Gums,
Gums, yes.
Juby,
Juby, I.
Roth,
Roth, yes.
Pius.
Pius, yes. Motion passes. Geographic Information Systems. Anything from that? I just have it as an item. And do you have any update on SSA, Mill Creek SSA, Mr. Fonstock?
No, not at this time.
Okay. No vehicles to purchase,
None.
no new business, old business. I would ask, I know that it came up the other day from, I believe, public comment that the RBO, the responsible bidder ordinance, was expensive to operate in our county. And I would ask Mr. Fonstock, have we experienced any additional expenses due to our RBO in our department or your department?
So the RBO requires public works construction projects over $100,000 to have certain specific requirements for apprenticeship and skilled labor. And so our bids are sent out with those requirements, and we get good competitive bids. But I mean, most of our projects receive more than 5 bids, and we haven't noticed any significant difference in the 5 bids from that. We did have, some changes to some of our contractual services. We use trade labor for electricians, plumbers, any of the contractual services that we provide. And we've been doing that even before the RBO. So I would say we haven't really seen any significant change in any of our contracting. And I think a lot of that is because our business practices didn't change much.
Okay, thank you very much. Just for that clarification. And I don't know if I had it on old business, new business. May I have a motion and a second to place the reports on file or ask for unanimous consent?
Unanimous consent, put reports on file.
Oh, okay, Arroyo asked for unanimous consent to place the reports on file. Is there any objection?
No, no.
Yeah.
Seeing, no,
Mr.
did I miss something?
Mr. Lasky was just informing me and asking if we need to continue the meeting and not adjourn if you're going to be walking as a group down by the creek.
I don't think so. I don't think we'll be conducting any business down there. We're just
Okay.
observing the
Yeah.
results of I would,
Except
discussing
does that
agenda
mean
items
there's
or
no
votes.
liability if someone falls in the creek? Okay.
Chair, I would suggest that we don't ask any questions down at the grotto that would pertain to any of the business that either paid for it, cleared it, future things. So if we're just actually going down
this is designed as an informational.
an information
Walk.
tour
Yep.
that, of course, I would think would be open to the public if they want to attend, but I
Certainly.
would think that we will not be having any business discussed at all.
No, I would admonish people not to do that. So therefore, so no, I would say not. And Miss Allen,
In that case, Alan speaking, could I ask Rob, is it possible to put together a list of druthers? Like if we wanted to do the footbridge, how much would that cost? If we wanted to restore the memorial garden, what would be involved? A list of druthers
Buddy down there.
that we might want to do.
Yes, to answer your question, we certainly can do that. And that's been part of some ongoing discussions with building management, which presumably then would come back to this committee at a later date.
Would we want to plant any more trees to help hold the soil or any more shrubs to help hold the soil? Any perennials to help hold the soil, that kind of thing.
Which we won't be discussing down at the creek, which we will not be discussing when we go down to the creek, yes.
Yeah, I mean, it's certainly, those things are not necessary for the success of the project. Everything that's needed for the success of the project is in place, and the contractor is contracted, obligated to maintain those things for the next 3 years. But certainly there's additional, plantings and natural area management that can be done as time goes on. I think that's one of the things that, we kind of wanted to show everybody is, this is not the end of the the project, it's really kind of the beginning, but it's the majority of the work is done, the hard stuff's done. Now it's just maintaining it so that it doesn't become overgrown, in the future.
Part of the reason I'm bringing it up is that we have the Riverboat Fund to help with environmental projects, and this could certainly qualify as it did for the original stabilization. Wanted to toss that there.
Okay.
Okay, so it'll be informational down there. Comment,
Yeah,
Mr. Gregg?
just a quick thing, if you could add to that list, I know it's not necessarily a county thing, but the restoration of whatever those stations were, then we could find an outside sponsor. Yep.
Quillen has his hand up. I'll allow a comment.
Yeah, as far as the grotto itself is concerned, that's actually on King County Forest
Forest Preserve.
Preserve ground. It's the line is really close,
Real
about
close.
50 feet. So anything we request in the future or have requested in the past, we start with the Forest Preserve and make that request of them. And I think that would go to your Stations of the Cross. That request, if it ever does come, will come through the Forest Preserve.
So.
Although it is on county land.
No,
The grotto is,
No, the grotto is on Forest Preserve.
right, but the stations are all the way from.
They're all through, yeah, they're all throughout.
We may see those in ours.
Yes.
Either way.
But we'll bring it up first with the Forest Preserve.
We're cer-
And then they'll go.
Sure.
Right.
Thank you.
Because if we
We
can,
work very well with the Forest Reserves. We're very familiar with them.
yeah,
Thank you.
because if we could,
It is on our list.
okay, good. Because
Oh,
we may be able to find an outside sponsor.
Plenty of churches. Hey,
Continue
I'm,
battling.
what is it down there? I'm wearing brand new shoes.
Thank you for that information, Mr. McClellan. Does that conclude our business for the
Yes,
day?
Roth will make a
No need
motion
for
to
executive
adjourn.
session?
Yeah, second.
Roth moves to adjourn.
Wait a second.
Arroyo second. All in favor?
Aye.
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 How muddy is it down there?
Anybody want to stay here?
Sure.
It hasn't rained, so we're
Yeah.
fine.
The far bottom circle drive, so go all the way to the lower parking lot, all the way
We're
to
coming
the
in from
north.
the riverside then. Over
From
that-
the Forest Preserve side, down by the river, there's a small circle drive with a footpath that goes back. It's on the far
Down the hill.
northeast side.
The muddy?
Hopefully, I'm driving down.
That's
to it.
pretty decent today.
I'm wearing brand new shoes. I'm asking. Can you help, buddy?
So
In pretty good shape.
Gravel, okay.
if not, that end we can blame on the Forest Preserve.
Right.